I deactivated my Facebook page. Sick of it.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. We're still waiting for people to arrive. We have a couple that are online. How many do we have?
Oh, we're good.
We are? Okay, good. Welcome.
Somebody's online, everybody has.
We can get back. Nobody's logged in? Yeah, I can hear it. That's echo. Peter, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi, good evening, everybody.
And a laptop?
Or turn the volume down, maybe.
Hi, Peter. I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's fine.
Welcome, and Peter is joining us tonight from the District Attorney's Office to let us know about the summer internship program that is, the applications are about to go online. So Peter, take it away.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. I just want to share two programs that we're offering. One is the anticipated summer 2026 high school internship program. We have some information on it. We are planning to begin accepting applications on January 26th. As soon as I have more information, I will share with you, Tricia, and the board. What we do also have in general is a high school resume workshop. That is happening on February 20th, and we're accepting interested parties to join us. So that link is open. So basically that's it. I have the flyers out there. Thanks for sharing for me. And any questions now, or if you don't have any questions now, if you want to look at the information we have and have questions, you know where to find me. Thank you very much.
We do have a couple. Thank you. Darren?
Hi, here it's Darren Charcuti in here. Thank you for your comments tonight. What's it, the internship? I know you've done this a few years and you talked about a year ago. What do you have this is for high school students. What do you have them doing over the course of a summer internship? How long is it and what type of things are they doing in the office?
The dates are on there. If you can blow it up a bit.
Okay, so it's about 4 weeks.
It's 4 or 5 weeks. I don't have it open in front of me, but it's in the flyers. They work on projects. Some interns, it's a learning experience. Some learn about the judicial system. Some want to investigate things. Some work on cases on a mock trial basis to learn to see what it's like, and they will present trials inside a real courtroom. So it could be a number of things. It's not one size fits all. The only thing I can add is this year, I've been involved in this for 3 years. It's been in place longer before that, but when I started, it was open to students going to school in Manhattan or students residing in Manhattan. Now with the popularity of it, we've tightened it up. It's only open to residents in Manhattan and going to school in Manhattan. So no parachutes.
Right. And then where would they report to work at 1 Hogan Place?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Peter, I'd love to know a little bit about the resume workshop. Is it the same age group?
Same age group. I think it's sort of not overlapping. What I'm saying is for these exceptional students that want to apply for the internship program, you should be getting ready now. It's a highly competitive process now. And if not, nowadays, high school students should have some form of resume in some order, and we would help. The resume workshop is to help some student get their first resume started. We'll have templates. We'll work on them on what skills or what achievements they have, and when they finish the resume workshop, they will have their first resume.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Anyone else have any questions? All right. Thanks so much, Peter, for joining us. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we also have with us Matt Pastor from Dan Goldman's office, and he's here to talk about this federal freezing of childcare funds. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And I know Carlos, who works with you all, is here as well. And I also have Robin Chung, who is our policy advisor, who works on all things health. So I think it's probably easiest at the top if I turn it to Robin and just let him give you kind of a state of play and a little bit of, what's going on, what's the current status, the funding freeze, and the information as we have it right now. So I'll turn it to Robin.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And, thank you to the board. Really appreciate, you all giving us the time to chat about this. Obviously, very much a dynamic state of play here. Last Tuesday, the administration announced that it would freeze about $10 billion in funding for 5 states, including New York. Frankly, this freezing was unsubstantiated by evidence of fraud that, frankly, the administration has not provided. And in New York, at least, this freeze amounts to around $3.4 billion. More or less 300,000 people would be affected. And we're talking within that 300,000, 170,000 children. So really what this administration is doing is using our children as pawns here in a political game around immigration and, frankly, very xenophobic rhetoric. As of last Friday, Attorney General Tish James and the attorney generals of the other states affected were able to secure a temporary restraining order so that this freeze has not gone into effect. That order lasts until the 23rd, so about a week and a half from now. And at that point, the order would have to be either extended or a preliminary injunction would have to be granted or denied. I will say, what we've seen, at least this year, is that we've been pretty successful in blocking these funding freezes through these both temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions. For example, back in about March of this year, the administration tried to freeze hundreds of billions of dollars worth of NIH grant funds, largely New York's grant funding, and the congressman was able to lead the entire delegation in opposing that action, and we were able to secure a full injunction on that order. Similarly, in April, the administration tried to freeze all USDA grants, especially a lot of grants going towards food assistance. Again, we were able to get that preliminary injunction, and we were able to freeze or to stop this freeze. At the end of the day, this administration is just trying to find a way to continue messaging on frankly, their terrible rhetoric. And what they're doing is illegal. And I will say, I'll turn it over to Matt later in this discussion, because Matt actually came to our office as one of the top officials at the Biden administration's Office of Management and Budget. So he's actually one of our top legal experts on congressional appropriations and, frankly, how illegal these actions are. But, that's all to say, currently, Head Start is perfectly fine, is not included in these freezes. TANF, or in fact, in New York, we call it family assistance, cash assistance for families and children. That is one of the affected programs, but is not, obviously is not being frozen right now, thanks to the order. On top of that, just to give you all an idea of some other things that would be frozen if it were to go into effect, we're talking childcare funding, transitional housing, all kinds of social services, adoption services, foster services. So, while, we're happy to see, for example, Governor Hochul today at State of the State push for universal childcare, and certainly the congressman's going to do this. We've been doing this at the federal level too, to push for universal pre-K and universal childcare for everybody under 5. This sort of federal cut cannot be made up by the state, and we're going to fight this tooth and nail to make sure that this freeze doesn't go into effect. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Matt if there's anything else to add, but we'll turn it over for questions.
Yeah, I think Robin's exactly right in that the state has been very clear on not just this, but on a number of issues that there is not adequate budget within the state to sort of have this unfunded mandate to take over all the services that are provided by the federal government. To Robin's point, with most of these grants, frozen funds, a lot of these are projects that like Robin said, they've entered into contracts, they've begun work. These are funds that, it's a little bit inside baseball, but the term we would use in DC is, the funding has been obligated, right? It's been set aside for a specific purpose. Those organizations have started work. Either they've been, the grant programs have been appropriated by Congress. So the administration for the last almost year now has had an approach of wanting to determine how money is spent, which has always been and is constitutionally a congressional function. So they are really trying to tee up a battle with the courts in which they're trying to get certain, laws invalidated that would give the president even greater control over, how to spend money. What they would argue is when we say, a certain account, let's say we put $100 million in that account and say that money has to go out the door for childcare. What the administration would argue and has argued is, number one, that is not a number they have to hit, that is a ceiling rather than a floor, and they are totally entitled to spend less than that, which is, I think, a totally novel opinion. No one else shares that view. And in certain circumstances, they will use the guise of fraud, or what they call a programmatic review, to say, we want to look to see if this program is hitting its goals, or is this program full of fraud? And they create fraud as a pretext to say, well, anecdotally, we have heard stories of this being mismanaged or misused, or what have you, and they use that to say, we're going to put this funding on pause while we examine it, so that they're not, they're not coming out and saying they're doing something illegal. But it's clear when you look at the states that this happens to, right? It's California, it's New York. Recently, there was the president tried to pardon someone who was convicted in state court in Colorado, which obviously a federal pardon can't overrule state convictions. And now they are, finding all these problems with Colorado all of a sudden. Colorado suddenly has all of these issues with federal funding. So it's no surprise that they're using this as a tool to try to get New York to do what they would like, right? In terms of, we've seen in the immigration policy as well. So it's something that we work on. To Robin's point, we have had a lot of success with lawsuits. The congressman does quite a bit in terms of, we lead letters, we often put out statements. We've joined a number of amicus briefs as it relates to funding freezes and things of that nature. So he's a member of the litigation task force. So the litigation task force actually works a lot with the appropriations committees that deal with the funding to shake as much of this loose as they can. But, we sort of have an approach to try to do everything we can, whether it's through legislation, whether it's through statements, social media, events, courtroom, whatever we can do. We know how valuable this fund is to the state, but also more importantly to the people on the ground. And so that is sort of where we are. And I think Robin did a pretty good job of giving you guys the state of play. So we will take questions. Happy to answer whatever.
Bob?
First, thank you guys for, it's frustrating. It's a frustrating life. Thank you for fighting. I run a very large nonprofit, Manhattan Youth, and we receive DYCD fundings. I have 3 questions for you. I may have a follow-up. I know this is into the weeds a little bit. I know that TANF is a cash transfer program that goes to, poor folks, poor families, but do you have any agencies that you could point to now that, I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, that you could point to now that are being impacted in our community, in your community and in our community? Are there any agencies themselves that you can tell us are impacted? I know the money is still flowing from the court order. I assume that. Thank you, Robin, for telling us that. That's important that the money keeps flowing. But if they come through, what agencies would be impacted? I know that we are a tax levy, city tax levy funded program. We get about $10 million from the city of New York. But I also know that in times of when you got to start, when the block grants or over there start not flowing, then the governor and the city has to start manipulating things. So it could impact programs not directly impacted that are in the list that Robin just gave. The governor could say, well, I got to shave 15% off of, off of DYCD or of that and give it to TANF. It's complicated. So I'd like to know what agents, we're not being told that yet, and I'm in a few coalitions, we're not being told that. And then finally, the payments are going through. And, that's good. So I think if I could be of help to you, I surely will jump up and down when, but we don't have any federal monies that are being held up, but they could be in that pot. I'm not, it used to be, it was tax levy money. There was very little federal money in after-school youth programs. There was some during COVID. That was taken away. But can you, speak to any of the questions that I just raised or comments over?
I'll go first, and we'll let Matt also answer as well. Frankly, we don't have a good understanding from the state just yet in terms of which specific agencies are impacted. That's something that we need to also get from HRA.
Right.
I will say one of the biggest pots that will obviously hit or may at least hit the world that your organization is in. It won't hit your organization, but is a social services block grant. And that block grant, it's a little difficult to see the line from federal monies because it's just been it goes to the state, it gets drawn down once a month, and then gets divvied up between city agencies, and so it's a little difficult. Yeah, it's an art. But the list is huge, and some of the things that I listed are just the start. Essentially almost every social services provider could draw some money from this. Again, it's not clear exactly how the state divvies it up, but that's something that, even today we were just getting new data from the state in terms of exactly, where that TANF money is flowing in Manhattan. And, we'll continue to work with the governor to try to figure out exactly where that's going, because we want to plan ahead in case this freeze does ever go into effect. Certainly agree. We want to plan ahead, and, we would not want to see the state. And then, we're starting to maybe see these conversations with all the federal cuts around Medicaid that the state is now having to fill, if other things have to be cut to backfill that. So that's something we'll have to get back to.
Robin's exactly right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add, right, we're getting real-time updates from the governor's office as they have estimates about what would be affected. Some of the problems that we encounter in situations where we've had these funding freezes, especially as they apply to broad categories, is, you can see that the Second Avenue subway, there was a freeze, the Gateway Tunnel, there was a freeze. The administration is not very clear in the way that they lay out what is being frozen and how it is being frozen. And that is sort of a problem that we have had in the past. A lot of MTA's transportation money is still being frozen. So it actually takes some time, both on the side of the governor's team and our team, just to kind of drill down on what these funds are, what funds are still being paid out, and how will the organizations be affected. So, I have gotten, I think, several emails from the governor's team just today about sort of new information they have and passing it along to us. But a lot of it we will end up hearing anecdotally from groups in the district who will tell us, we had this grant, we've had this funding, it's been cut off, we received a notice saying you're no longer going to be funded by this account. So as Robin said, we generally have an idea of sort of the cascading effect of this and the types of organizations and groups that will likely be the most impacted. But how it works in practice, and to your point about the governor's team figuring out where they put that money, we don't know exactly what can be shifted and how it can be shifted. And that's the other thing, is that if the state has some contingency that they can use to sort of backstop some of this, we don't know exactly how they'll deploy that yet. So I think from our perspective, right, we don't want to, it's not enough just to backfill stuff. We want to get the appropriate level that was there. And Robin, I think you're going to chime in.
Yeah. And to be clear, if you are seeing, your organization or any sister organizations seeing their funding frozen in any capacity, please tell us. You have all of our contacts, and frankly, we're happy to give out phone numbers, like whatever you all need. During the previous funding freezes, we've seen a fair amount of success in advocating for organizations on an individual level that have told us that their funding has been frozen. Immediately coming to mind is when I spent like 48 hours on the call with almost every community health center who had their funding frozen. And we were able to then really advocate with at least career civil servants to try to at least get some funding unblocked. So please just, keep us apprised, and our door's always open if anything were to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, Carlos is probably a good point of contact for that too, because we have had a number of organizations, not just in this space, but in a number of spaces with grant cancellations, grant freezes, and we try to be strategic and figure out how we can push back on the administration. But it's also helpful for us and for the congressman, when you go out into events, when he's in hearings, when you're talking about these things, to be able to have the real world impacts of this organization lost this amount of money, and that is X amount of slots for childcare, things like that. So it really is helpful for us to have that information, but it also is then gives us the opportunity to try to do something to fix it. Obviously, with this administration, there's no guarantee that we can fix it, but we will do everything we can. We just can't be everywhere at once. So we do appreciate people letting us know when that happens.
I'm sorry, just a point of information, if I could share to you. New York City, I've been doing this for about 40 years, has great reporting on attendance. This thing that he's saying happened in Minnesota is probably bullshit. I'm sorry to curse, but we report our attendance every day to the city and to the state, and by the name of the child. But and unless we're committing fraud, which we're not, those reports tell us that we're at 90% of attendance rates, and that's what if there were problems that there was sincere about federal funding, they would institute attendance tracking and say, hey, all right, now here's some attendance tracking, which I'm sure probably these states have. So that's just an aside. Thank you very much.
And you're exactly right. I was going to say, we have this offshore wind project that the funding has been frozen to. We've seen it time and time again. It's fraud. They will cite ambiguous concerns. There's new concerns. There's new information. Yeah. They'll do anything they can to try to, hide what they're actually trying to do. And usually fraud and waste and these things are easy ones to hide behind because no one wants to come out and say, we're for it if there's fraud. And I think we all agree, if there were fraud and waste, no one is for that. But that's not what's happening here. And they're just using that as you said it was bullshit. I agree, it's bullshit. They use that as a smokescreen to say, oh, well, we have to look at what's happening here. But if that were really the case, and I don't want to put any state down, I would think a lot of these other states that are potentially red states, which aren't being investigated, might have similar problems. But it's only ever these states that don't necessarily ideologically align with the president that suddenly have problems. So I think we can all see what's happening. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, right? It's sort of where we are. So, but we're, like I said, we're happy to be a resource. And as this moves forward, we're always around to answer questions.
Absolutely.
Tell me, I don't remember if I heard correctly, if pre-K, 2K, any of that is going to be affected by this potentially. Do you know?
Yeah, I can say yes, but I don't know to what extent. Again, we run into the same problem of it's not exactly clear to us how the state divvies up its childcare block grants. But certainly I would expect childcare slots and pre-K slots in general to be affected.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Because ultimately, right, like the state will triage how it can. And sometimes in other monies the state has, there is flexibility for them to try to move it around. But to your point, you can only do that for so long, right? You're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're at a point the money runs out. And our focus is trying to get as much of that money back in the state's hands because these are federal obligations. They have historically been federal obligations, and we can't have states just suddenly taking the mantle for all of these things that the federal government has traditionally paid for because it can't. And, some might argue that's the point, right? They want to cut services, and if they want to cut services, states can't make up the gap. And ultimately there's only so much that the money to go around. So we have, it's day in and day out, it's what we see. And we appreciate that you guys are focusing on it and paying attention to it. And, as this goes forward, we appreciate the partnership and being able to work with you all on trying to make sure we're mitigating the worst impacts.
Thanks very much. Oh, one more question.
I know you said there's a lot of moving pieces and it's dynamic, but if it does affect 4K and 3K, worst case scenario, I assume that would be for the next school year, or do you think these would be like immediate impacts? And again, saying that, knowing there's so many moving pieces, but if there was a worst case scenario, when would we start to see those effects?
If we're talking worst case scenario, I don't exactly know the timing of like how often the state draws down money from the federal government for pre-K, but I would say we would start to see like at least some marginal effects immediately, like rolling closures or something of the like. And then, if for example, this freeze was sustained and became a full cut, which I'm sure the administration would like to do, frankly, yeah, we would see very significant impacts that the state just, again, frankly, does not have the money to backfill.
Do you have any idea of the timing of this decision? Like, do you know any structure? We're just trying to figure out how to time this resolution because we could use some more data.
Well, I will say this court case is going to go on forever. It's going to go on for a very long time. And for example, like I said that we won the NIH case, but like we're still like we won in the sense that it seems like the administration has kind of given up trying to litigate it, but they're still kind of going through the motions. And so in terms of timing, the 23rd is when we will find out if we get a preliminary injunction or another TRO or a temporary restraining order. If we get another TRO, it'll probably be only for a couple weeks. Frankly, from what we've seen the last couple times this has happened, usually we get 1 to 2 TROs on top of the original one. So it'll probably be about maybe a month and a half. Again, that's just entirely an estimate of when we'd see a preliminary injunction. And then if that preliminary injunction happens, then we're talking months to years for this lawsuit to go over. So in terms of timing for the resolution, I think you have more than 1 week. Like you've more than you can go beyond the 23rd. Like you can safely say that. But in terms of the preliminary injunction timing, it's not clear to me when that'll be. So sooner rather than later, I would advise.
And to Robin's point, when they have lost in court, they immediately go to appeal the decision, and they appeal. So to Robin's point, this will work its way through courts for a while. If they rule in our favor in the initial court, they will appeal it, and they continue to move forward. And that's sort of the pattern we've seen for most of these funding freezes is they continue to pursue the freeze and to pursue an appeal to the decisions if that's what comes down.
And they can't freeze it until they, are through that process, correct?
Well, I would argue legally they can't freeze it ever. But the problem here is they cannot often be compelled to do things, right? If there were members of Congress who are willing to compel them to do things, unfortunately, we don't have members that are willing to stand up to them. So the freeze is usually in place, and that's what leads to the court case, right? That's the injury that they're suing to stop. So a lot of times it's unclear, though, to what extent they actually have been able to freeze things. Like I said, this is a little bit of it's sort of a perfect storm of there's not a lot of transparency. They're not very upfront about what they're doing, but they've also fired so many staff at these federal agencies. A lot of times the people with the expertise who would be responding to you, who work on these budgets, aren't even there. So it's very hard to get answers from them. If you're even find someone who's answering a phone or an email, then you have someone a lot of times who is not willing to answer, who is not straightforward about what they're doing. So it is very, very difficult to try to get a full handle on this. And as we've seen, even when court decisions try to stay their actions or a court remands them to a certain decision, they sometimes don't follow it. So it's hard because they really are kind of straining at the restrictions that traditionally government has had. So that's why it can feel a little bit like playing a game of whack-a-mole of we figured out there's a problem here and we're able to get injunctive relief in this area, but then they have a different interpretation. I think you saw this is not the same thing, but the congressman was getting often into 26 Federal Plaza after a successful lawsuit, and then they suddenly decided we're going to change the policy so the lawsuit doesn't apply anymore. They're always kind of moving the goalposts, and so that's why it's a little difficult to say, it's like there's an on-off switch when the freeze starts or doesn't. It is a little bit of a slide. And so, yeah, usually you can tell when they announce these things, but it's not like it's a kind of clear as day when it starts, when it stops kind of thing. It is a little bit of there is some ambiguity in there, which is really unfortunate for us, and it makes it a lot harder to track.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, good. Well, we're going to gather some data then and focus on possibly doing this in February. I may circle back with you just to check in with you before our meeting, if that's okay, just to see if you have any developments. So, but thank you both.
Yeah, please do. And as if we get really enlightening information from the governor's office, we're happy to share it. Like I said, I think they are doing their best to figure out the practical impacts too, and then working with their federal partners and our partners in the Senate to just make sure that we're doing what we can here.
Okay, great. Thank you both very much. All right.
Great meeting you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Moving on, to our, resolution. Did everybody get a copy of this thing?
Mhm.
So I did a draft just to help move us along here, but it's not finished. So I do want to go through it with everybody. If anybody has any feedback, please feel free to speak up. The goal, as I saw it, was to create some accountability by going back to the very lengthy discussions we had when this school was cited and approved for citing at that location. The number one conversation was state safety. So it is with an incredible amount of despair and frustration that we find ourselves in this position. And so what I tried to do is touch upon just the main points of how we got here, what was said. Let you guys take a look at some of these letters from Luis Sanchez, which is how long these discussions have been going on. And just, get some history fill in with this. The short story is that this location was turned down twice, not once, but twice. And it was turned down when it was going to be a middle school because they thought it was too unsafe. So it was really interesting to us that they approved it for an elementary school after turning it down for a middle school. So they were very accommodating with communication and we even met with them in 2017. We had an interagency meeting. We sat down, we discussed this location. You guys have pictures that the committee took at that time that will, yeah, if you can, Lucy, that'd be awesome. I want to thank Lucy too. I got this information to her at 5:50. So can you just say thank you to Lucy? In the usual fashion.
Always.
Yes. She's amazing. Anyway, I wanted to give this to you guys visually if people haven't been at this location. Super tricky location. It no longer, the park no longer looks like it does in these aerials. I think you guys all know that. This spur no longer goes through the middle of this park. It's now, that's closed off and the traffic goes up Greenwich and takes a hard right on Edgar if it needs to continue up Trinity. Now that area is all filled in and it's Lisberger Park. So at that time, we were concerned about these buses coming out of the tunnel, coming up and taking that right turn onto Edgar and then the left turn onto Trinity Place. It's just a very tricky intersection with the Greenwich Street side is a 7-foot sidewalk. That's the left side of the building as you're looking down at it. To the north, we have Rector Street. Rector Street is also a 7-foot sidewalk. There are multiple curb cuts and commercial loading docks on both of those streets. So it's really a no in terms of students walking along those two perimeters. So the focus, it has been on primarily on Edgar Street because as you can see, I captured some of this footage myself. There were only these little golf carts, what are they, DOT golf carts that, are traffic, they're the ones that give you traffic tickets. And they zip around the neighborhood and they tended to park on that westbound lane of Edgar Street. I would spend an hour at that location at 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning and maybe see 2 cars going into the Battery garage. A lot of cars going into the garage came down Greenwich Street and into the garage. The garage is also accessible from West Street. This was a discussion with accessibility with neighbors when we had the meeting back then. They were concerned, and rightly so, about being able to get in and out if we were to ask for that westbound lane of Edward Street to be closed. But at that time, what we shook out was that most people go into that garage from Greenwich or from West Street. So we moved into what was 2 resolutions back then, one in 2017, one in 2019. And the DOT was very accommodating. They saw no reason why Edgar Street, that westbound lane would not be able, they saw no reason why it couldn't be closed, or at least during school hours, but they were going to do a traffic study. Our goal was to keep the kids, as many of the kids, away from crossing and trying to, buses arriving and kids gathering on the Trinity Place side. Trinity Place has 3 subway entrances directly in front of the school. And the courtyard they built was built out of the recess that the old historic Dickey building forms. So, do you have any pictures of the new facade by any chance? I don't know if I have that. Anyway, I went and surveyed that courtyard myself, and it's 650 square feet. When you have a K-5 that has 475 children, you have 4 to 11-year-olds, you can estimate the amount of people, they need caretakers at that age. You can estimate the amount of people descending upon the school in the morning at around 900. Most of the families going to this school are coming from the north, the east, and the southeast. There are some coming from the west, but not as many when we did our little survey. So our goal was to get these kids to the south of the building when they arrived, because if they unloaded on a bus on Edgar Street, and, the original plan that we discussed with the DOT and the DOE was that the bus would come across Edgar Street in the morning going eastbound and stop at that southwest corner of the intersection to the south. That way, we could let the children off. They could cross the very quiet Edgar Street onto what we were told was going to be a greatly widened sidewalk in 12 feet that the building needed to do because of the mechanicals that were necessary to build the building. And we thought that was the best idea because not only did you have this incredibly wide sidewalk that would span the 35 feet that was Edgar Street South Side, but you would conveniently be able to take that turn right into the courtyard at Trinity Place. So if you look at your aerial view and you're looking down at the building and you look at the bottom right corner, that is where the Dickey building was, and that is where the courtyard is. So imagine a world in which our children get off of the bus, walk across the very quiet Edgar Street onto the very safe, wide northern westbound lane that's closed, and then walk around the corner safely into that courtyard. Instead, what happened, and I should also say that we went through a lot of confusion, and this item was moved from youth to transportation. Betty did a phenomenal job with it, and still is. It's just that it provided an opportunity for there to be communication gaps. We also had Luis Sanchez stepping down, and Pinker stepped up as the DOT commissioner. And so we had all these changes of staffs because of how long it took the building to get built, which we've seen over and over down here. It takes 6 or 7 years to get a school built. So what happened instead, without me knowing it, was that the bus stop was moved somehow, for some reason, to the corner of Rector and Trinity Place. There honestly could not be a worse location for that bus stop, in my opinion. You are on the opposite side of Trinity Place from the school. You have teaming buses coming up from the Battery. They are side by side in the morning and bumper to bumper, creating this, you can't even see across the street if you're on the east side. You can't see the school because you've got the buses just teaming past you. So you're waiting for the light and you're walking into traffic with buses side by side, with motorized scooters, motorized bicycles, weaving in and out of traffic. And you can imagine the situation we now have. So thankfully, PS 150, Stacy's with us tonight. I'm so thrilled to say she is a new public member on our committee. We're so happy to have her because we have been lacking some representation in our committee from the school that, you know, and we really want to make sure we do a great job with this. So having her perspective, and I want to let her talk tonight a little bit because she was able to bring to us the immediate asks to try to remediate the situation at hand. And then we're also going to ask for at least a meeting to discuss what happened here. We do know that they said it's not possible, quote unquote, to make the bus stop on Edgar Street, but I've never gotten a sufficient explanation. I would like it. I'd like to see if we could troubleshoot it. I do appreciate the fact that when we found out that the westbound lane of Edgar Street couldn't just be closed, that they were, you know, very quick to suggest that they apply for open streets. We are supporting them in that venture to get that westbound lane closed during school hours. So that's where things are right now. We've got the bus stop at the corner of Rector and Trinity Place that, in my opinion, needs to be moved. But in the meantime, in the short term, we need to troubleshoot it. And what PS 150 has asked is that we advocate for planters or barriers on Trinity Place to keep the children away from the traffic. They are way too close as they make that crossing and walk all the way down that full block to the courtyard. They are walking alongside the 3 subway entrances and the teeming buses, often coming within feet of them because they're squeezing around on the traffic side of these subway entrances. They have a lot of commuting foot traffic in this block. So they're also dealing with city commuters that are coming out of the subway. It's just a loaded gun. Anyway, so we're advocating for crossing guards at Trinity and Rector Place, which they shockingly do not have. We are advocating for crossing guards also at Edgar and Trinity. And then we are advocating for these barriers. And then we're advocating for a regroup and reframing. And we're going to see, you know, Zach has reached out several times trying to get this meeting together, and we're going to continue pursuing it. But we decided to move forward with the resolution without having that happen, which was my original goal. But I think it's timely. We need to find a temporary solution for the school. So with that, I'm going to let Stacy talk for a couple minutes, and then we're going to open everything up to discussion.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm happy to be on board. So thank you, Tricia and everyone. A lot of the problems, I appreciate the history that you went through, and a lot of these problems still exist, although they're in a different form. The biggest problem that we have is there is no designated bus stop. The bus, although I think it technically may be Trinity and Rector because of the safety concerns for the kids, it has been any manner of the middle of Trinity from Edgar, turning the wrong way onto Edgar, blocking off the street on Edgar, northbound towards Trinity, trying to find a place where it doesn't disturb the traffic and also keeps the kids safe, which is not ideal for anyone. We had, you know, many of our school staff out there trying to keep it safe. The open streets permit for Edgar, which is where we'd like to have them park the bus, was denied by the DOT. And what we were told off the record was to just put up a barrier and have the bus park there, which is not sustainable for anyone. It's the traffic.
Put the barrier up.
The school staff. Every morning they have to put it up when the bus parks there. Yeah, it's not ideal, and it's not a long-term solution for anyone.
And do they have the authorization to even do that?
They don't, but
Technically, no.
look at their options. I mean, there's just such a complete lack of.
Like I'm not saying
organization.
that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm saying that they do, and then who comes by and says, you know what I mean? It's like, then there's construction, and they're like, oh, you can't do that, or then the police come, no, this is not, you know what I mean?
Well, without the barrier, it's a lot of people coming up and honking the cars and everything like that. I don't think there's been any police action from that. Yeah, so I mean, that's a request, at the least the open permit, open streets permit for Edgar. The biggest problem that we're facing right now is the buses now, instead of going in this, I believe you called it the spur, and turning onto Trinity that way, they go up Trinity from the Battery. And I have no other way to describe it except they barrel past. And in the pictures you showed, it showed that kind of whole street shed, which was up until spring of last year, and in some ways kept the kids safe because it was, covered the entire sidewalk. That's now gone, and they've shifted construction to the east side of Trinity. And so what that means now is the buses at some points can be a foot away from kids because there is no barrier. So that's where the request for some type of barrier, whether that's planters or the daylighting, the big concrete blocks, something to just say like, this is a place where both the kids and the families need to watch out, but also cars and buses need to watch out. And then the crossing guards and at both of the places that you recommended and school signage. There, I would love for everyone to come down and take a look and see, but I have walked the entire 4-block radius and there's nothing that says there is a school here, which is a bit horrifying. Now, I know there's been a lot of construction and I believe that's probably part of it, but I now have parents texting me saying, I'm gonna buy some signs from Amazon and go put them up at 2 a.m. who's in, which is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to do that. So those are kind of the 4 requests for this resolution that I would say are imperative.
And has there been a conversation with the school about signage?
Yeah, absolutely.
The school shouldn't even be involved in that because it should be automatic when a school opens. Again, we had a full discussion about where the signage would be and what it would say in 2017. And I want to say it's probably because of all the regimes turning over, because of how long it takes to get a school built, that all these things fall through the cracks. But we've been through this with Millennium.
But the school hasn't been resistant to.
Oh, gosh, no, very supportive.
It's just
But
that
by the time the decision is made, whoever would be responsible for it and make that decision collectively is gone.
You mean within like the city?
the city agencies just forget that it wasn't done. Like the school was so delayed that when it opened under a different regime at the DOT. And I want to say that's what it is. It's something that, to be honest, they should have a better eye on. There has to be a checklist when you open a school. They were so late opening this school. I arrived down there the day it opened and that sidewalk shed was supposed to be gone. And the entire south side of Edgar Street was chain link fenced with construction materials for a good 16 feet into the westbound lane. They couldn't use it at all, and it stayed there for a good 4 months. And so the school really shouldn't have been open with that situation the way it was, but we had no choice. We had no incubation space. So I think they were a little overwhelmed, and then the school signage never happened. So this is an opportunity to get it all done well. And I really would love your feedback, Stacy. I'm thankful that you reminded me about the school signage, but if there's anything else that you think you guys would want that we should add,
Yeah,
please do.
I mean, I just want to say, and I don't know that if this would be specific to this resolution, but, and I encourage everyone to come down this area and take a look and see the situation, 7:30 to 8:30 and then 2:30 to 3:30. But it's not just for PS 150. There are families who are going to the 2 private schools on the east side, Lamont and the other one on Pine Street. There's kids going across the way to 276 from the east side. There's commuters going from the west side to the subway. Like there could easily be a couple thousand people there every morning. So it's not just that the traffic situation needs to be resolved for our school. I think it's for the Lower Manhattan community as a whole. We
It's a
need
good
some
point.
fixes. Yeah,
LMC, everybody gets off the one
LMC.
train for LMC there too.
yeah, absolutely. The Lamont High School is right around the corner from there. So there's just a lot of people there. These are the biggest requests and there are some barriers that I've been involved in conversations that I recognize there might be barriers to this. I think you guys all know, Tricia knows, we set up a meeting with the DOT commissioner, the new one, Danielle Zuckerman, and she came down and saw it and she explained a lot of the history of why certain things couldn't be done, like the 12-foot sidewalk on Edgar. She did explain why they couldn't approve the open streets permit. I don't think it means we shouldn't ask, but they did have a reasoning for all of it. So all of that just to say, I think these are all good requests and hopefully hopefully it will all go through, because we need to keep pushing, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
Or-
I do. My son went there until second grade.
That's
And
right.
now the last 3 years, he's in a different school. When we were there, there was a discussion of putting planters in front on Trinity Place.
Mhm.
Does that never happen?
No,
Not one?
no, so I don't think we ever overlapped, and when I joined the school, they hadn't been placed there, because the sidewalk shed was only up until
Yeah, I know.
spring of 2025.
That they promised us planters when the sidewalk shed came down. I know the sidewalk shed came down, but no planters.
You say there's no clearance there? What, now to do it now? There's no clearance?
I think the conversation was renewed now because the sidewalk shed only just went down.
Because they put up these barriers around by Whole Foods, the Bank of New York, just put them up around the whole property.
Yeah,
You know, nice looking things too.
Yeah.
Just strong barriers.
yeah.
So call Bank of New York, ask who did push
Try to
that
pay
through.
for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the PTA in the school, I don't think should be required to pay for those.
No, it's expensive.
Exactly, so that's where I initially contacted, Tammy and CV1 was that we wanted to request these.
And when we were there, they did have a DOT traffic agent from time to time. That disappeared.
Yeah, no, the only time that we will have a crossing guard is when and if there's a flagger for the construction.
There's two different things. One's a crossing guard and the other was a DOT agent
Yeah.
that directs traffic.
Yeah.
There was a crossing guard a limited period of time, but she was taken away. And then we had some DOT agents who direct traffic and not strictly limited to school, and they would be there at least stopping the buses. And I know how fast the buses go. They just go
Horrifying.
like very fast. And then there was I think there was a school sign for Le Mans
Oh,
at.
There is
yeah,
one
yellow sign.
much further down
Yeah,
on
talking about
Trinity. There's
Lamar,
but there's
that's why it's called Lamar Street.
Yeah.
Lamar Street, yeah.
yeah,
But not they can't just put up a little sign.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are my
Sure.
comments.
I just walked by there today around 3 o'clock and they had I guess a police barrier with a sign that says
Yeah.
road closed from 7 to 4.
Yeah.
Is that true?
So that
I've
is the
seen that road. Is it the westbound or northbound?
north,
Of
west.
Edgar, it's west.
Yeah.
It's the northern,
Yeah,
if
Yeah.
you're looking at it in an aerial,
It's-
it's the northern lane
Yeah.
and it's westbound.
but I've seen that closed.
So the PTA purchased that from
That sign.
the school purchased the man barrier and put the sign on, to
Okay.
walk the street.
And
And no, it doesn't stay up.
to go with the barrier, today there was a FedEx truck parked on the sidewalk
Yeah,
because of the construction on the other side.
yeah.
So there's trucks parking on that
Oh,
sidewalk
every day,
all the time.
every day. So the school deliveries for the cafeteria go there, yeah.
Very nice.
Have you guys had a fire drill yet?
Yes, they do several at the beginning of the year.
How did that go? What-
Yeah.
Did they go out the south side onto Edgar?
So they have several ways they go out, and I actually was at the coffee shop around the corner when they did one this year. Part of the school goes out through the back entrance of the building, which is only accessible from inside the school, and then part goes out the front. But they cross over to Lisberger Park.
Okay,
Yeah, but it's all hands on deck. I know it makes the staff very nervous
Yeah.
because they have to get, 400 odd kids. So you put 4 to 11 in here, but there is a 3K and 4K
Is
program
there?
here.
Okay.
So some kids are as young as 2.
Okay, good. I'll add that. And yes, that was the only thing, that was the only plan that worked,
Yeah.
was the fire drills were to come out, go across the one lane that was supposed to be closed
Yeah.
and the south lane, and then go into the park, because that was the only place that could hold that many children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, as far as I know, they are okay.
okay. That is good to know. Does anyone, I didn't look online, does anybody have their hands up that's remote tonight? No? Have you guys all had a chance to read through it? Is there any comments, questions, edits you'd like to propose, anything as we look at it?
In the fifth whereas, it
Uh-huh.
says community board exclamation point.
Say it again, Eric?
Instead
CV exclamation point.
of one.
Yes, thank you.
It's a good resolution.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I had.
Thank you.
It sums it up.
Okay. All right, well, without further ado then, Lucy always fact checks and checks my typos too. Without further ado, we can vote on it if there's no other questions. All right, all in favor?
Thank you. Andrew, Matt,
Yeah.
and Cody. Cody's a yes.
Let's do it.
And yes,
Yes, over here.
I guess you're saying yes, you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Carries.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
all right, anybody have any new business or anything they want to add to February's agenda?
I know that this is in flux,
Uh-huh.
but the mayor announced that he wants to move forward with the 2K, I forget what he called it, 2K for all. I don't know if that's something, like, if this isn't appropriate to ask or discuss, but to get more information if it does move forward.
Sure, you know, we're gonna talk, hopefully, I was talking to Tammy today about getting a meeting, the CB1 meeting with the new, what's he
Yeah.
calling it, Office of Mass Engagement, right?
Oh, okay,
Community
I thought you
Mass
were going to say
Engagement?
the new chancellor.
He changed the name of the community liaison. And so we're looking forward to meeting her. And so that would be a question for her office.
That'd be great.
So hopefully we'll get someone from their office to, to log on. So I'll ask Zach if he can reach out to them again and hopefully we can get that on the agenda. We have lots of questions for them. Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
it. If there's-
Nice meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank
Good
you.
meeting, Eric.
Send it out to you.
Yeah.
Good
Bye,
evening. Night.
Thank you, guys.